The average credit card debt balance in Singapore is estimated to reach $13.7 billion in 2023. Now, that in isolation is not a terrifying statistic, but here's where it gets a little bit scary. In 2020, 82% of people were paying off their credit card balance in full. Now, I'm not sure what the other 18% were doing, perhaps forgot their login details, but obviously that is a little bit worrying in itself. But what is more worrying is that 82% is now 73%. So that's a much larger portion of the Singaporean population that are getting hit with unnecessary interest on their credit card balances. So let's have a look at a few tips when it comes to managing credit cards here in Singapore. Hi there, Jarrad Brown here, Australian expat financial planner here in Singapore. Now, what we are looking at today are the tips to manage your credit card exposure or your ongoing credit card usage here in Singapore. So tip number one is really to review the rewards, the perks that you're getting with your credit card and the fees that you are paying. Quite often, there are so many credit card choices here in Singapore, different perks, different programs you can take part in, and a lot of them do carry an annual fee. So what many people will find is that if you're not actually spending enough money on your credit card, that is not a recommendation by the way, then you may find that you're actually paying far more than the points are actually worth that you're accruing. So review what those points are worth. I would suggest doing that at least on an annual basis, if not a little more regularly, and have a look at what that annual fee actually looks like. I would also suggest call your credit card company or call your bank and ask them to waive your annual fee. Not always going to work, but certainly worth a quick phone call to explore what your options might look like. Number two is to review your credit card limits. This is the amount that the credit card company or the bank will allow for you to spend on your credit card. Now in Singapore, they seem to give out credit card limits a little bit like candy. There are letters coming in the mail inviting you to all sorts of different programs, all sorts of ridiculously high limits. Feels a little bit like Australia 20, 30 years ago. Now, what you do need to be mindful of with this are really two things. One, your credit card limit is going to reduce your borrowing capacity when it comes to mortgages or refinancing or borrowing to buy an investment property in Australia. And number two is if you are carrying forward balances month to month and you start getting hit with interest, this can be a compounding problem. Interest rates with credit cards are often anywhere from 20 to 26% per year. That is a ridiculously high hurdle rate, and chances are your investments are not going to outperform that rate. So do be mindful when it comes to the limits. And the third tip when it comes to managing your credit cards is to avoid paying for things just to get the points that are actually incurring fees to do so. Now, one of the most common examples here in Singapore are people paying for their rent on their credit card. For the majority of us, particularly at the moment with the rental crisis we're all facing, are actually putting their rent on their credit cards, getting the points because they figure it's such a large expense, but ignoring the fact that the providers that allow for this to happen are charging a fee for you to do so. And often that fee will be anywhere from 1.5 all the way up to 3%, and that often far outweighs any points that you're getting. So again, run your numbers here. Don't waste money or unnecessary fees if you don't need to, just to get the points. Or if you need to, because you find that the positive feelings, the qualitative aspect of getting all of those points is actually better and you're happy to wear that than the expenses and fees you're paying, at least make sure it's an informed decision. So a few tips when it comes to managing your credit cards: make sure you review your options, make sure they're aligned to your goals, and you're not getting hit with unnecessary fees, interest, and different expenses. I hope that helps, but drop me a note with any questions. Always happy to have a chat. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next time.